I'm the Spear Keeper, and I give you a reason for every season. Today, we're going to be looking at the new for 2025 HalloweenCostumes.com Wave 1 of their animatronics. And what I mean by Wave 1 is they're going to release all of their animatronics in 3 different waves. And this is Wave 1. But without further ado, let's go and look at these. The first animatronic I'm going to talk about is Tony, Tombstone Graveyard Caretaker. For the sake of this video, I'm going to call him Tony just because his name is a bit of a mouthful. If you see by his name, it's 4 words. But anyway, on the topic of this guy, he's a skeleton graveyard digger, which I think is very unique. And he has some tombstones on his back, which I think really adds to this guy. He has like a sort of cross tombstone, and I think that really adds to him. He also has some arm movement, which I think is great, and some mouth movement. His eyes also light up green, and I think his color scheme really fits him with that type of mossy look. He has some green creepy cloth, which I like for the texture, and then he has some brown pants. So he's really giving off that type of mossy vibe here with Tony. But I personally think this guy's pretty good. But yeah, that's about it for Tony. Next up is Hops, the Dismembered Zombie. And again, his name is a bit of a mouthful, so I'll call him Hops. This guy was also created by SVI, just like Tony. And I'm not a huge fan of him, but I think his concept is really cool. I do like the blood that he shows with it spinning. The only thing I don't like about it is it kind of looks like a leather type texture that you kind of see like swaying at the car wash, if you know what I mean. They're kind of swaying on your window. I feel like it kind of gives that vibe, which I don't like. But when we do actually see the up close of the arm that's slivered off, you can see that it has quite a bit of gore, which I do like. But I don't like the type of leather car washers on his actual arm when it twists. Besides that, I really like his side-to-side movement, almost as if he's trying to hop, which is in the name, Hops. And I also like his mouth movement. Now, you can't hear his audio too well, but I will think he'll grunt or something. And I think the overall look of this guy is pretty good for a zombie that is missing a leg, which I didn't mention, and an arm. Both of those having those type of windshield wiper things on them as they swirl around. But that's about it for Hops, so let's go on to the next one. Next up, I'm going to be talking about an animatronic that Brick Thunder helped make. I'm going to be talking about Salvation. Now, Salvation is very unique, and he gives off a type of nightmare fuel vibe. I really like how he looks, as he is around 8 feet tall, which I think is crazy. I really love his super long tongue. His tongue is almost as tall as him, so just think about that. Maybe a 7 feet long tongue, and it moves around. Now, the only thing I don't like about the tongue is that it has like a cloth covering over it, instead of I would have liked something like a latex tongue, which would have been nice. But I still think he looks great given that nightmare fuel. I also really love his hands. You can really see the paint job on the hands. They have a bit of blood. I just really like how they look. Now, this guy is mostly black clothing, which I think really fits him to make that tongue really stand out, as it's a red color and the black is more just there. I really like that they didn't go for the navy, green, anything else. I really like that Brick Thunder and Halloween costumes both chose that black color, and I really like his face sculpt. I think that also came out great. But so far, from the first 2 that we saw, I think Salvation is my favorite. Now I'm going to be talking about another prop that was made by Brick Thunder. Well, helped make by Brick Thunder. I'm talking about the animated dire dragon's head. So now this is basically somewhat of a puppet that somebody behind it has to be controlling, and they can basically move it around. And now I do really like this. I really love how it looks, giving off that type of reddish orange color. And I really like that it actually spits out fog, which I think is cool with the interactiveness of this guy. because I think that definitely adds to the scare factor of this guy. I think it's really cool that Halloween Costumes is doing a puppet prop, which I think we mostly see from professional companies and not so much retail companies. So I like to see some more affordable puppet props. Next up is Frederick the Floating Phantom. So this guy right off the bat gives me a super similar vibe of the Lowe's bell ringer. I just think the color scheme is similar and they both look similar. The only thing different with this guy is that he's holding a lantern and not a bell. I really like this guy just because of his movement, which what he does is he basically looks side to side and his arm moves and like sort of sways but also rocks at the same time, which I think is really cool. And I will say the arm that does move isn't the one with the lantern. But besides that, I really like how this guy looks. His face is made of plastic, but I think that works for him as his mouth is open, as his audio is kind of just ghost mumbling. Next up is going to be the 12-foot zombie. So we don't see too much of this guy in the actual video, but he basically lights up a lot and he moves left to right. And I think that's really cool. That Halloween Costumes is stepping into that 12-foot animatronic just like Lowe's. And I will say the 12-footers are getting a bit repetitive, but I do enjoy this guy. The only thing about the zombie is I think that it's also given up a type of mummy vibe, if you will. I think that with that creepy cloth hanging off, it looks like some mummy cloth. And I think the guy's face also looks a bit like a mummy. But I think that's really cool for him. And I don't think there's too much else to say about this guy. Next up is Galthax the Underworld Demon. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly. This guy is basically a remix of the Underworld Clown from Spirit Halloween. I forget which year it was, but it was like, let's say 2020. So, this guy is a demon version of the Underworld Clown. I don't know how his quality is going to be, as the Underworld Clown's quality was very bad with his poles breaking. But I really like how this guy looks. I really love the demon look of him, as we don't get many demon props. And I really just like that they did a reskin of the Underworld Clown with a demon for this, because I think that really fits him with that type of demonic red look. I just really love how he looks, and he also has mouth movement. He has yellow eyes, and I don't know if he moves side to side like the Underworld Clown, but I would expect him to do that. But this guy is probably, again, one of my favorites so far from Halloween Costumes this year. Next up is the 3-Stack Clown, which is another animatronic made by Brick Thunder. Now, this kind of gives me Trickster Trio vibes from Home Depot. And there isn't too much to say about these guys. Their mouth moves. Now, one thing I will say that I don't believe that you can actually remove them from each other like you could with the Home Depot ones. But besides that, I feel like they kind of give like a type of bowling color scheme, like a bowling pin, because they have that black and white. But these guys aren't my favorite, but they definitely aren't my least favorite. Next up is the Nun, and this animatronic is licensed from the Nun movie. So the Nun basically lunges at the person that is approaching it, which I think is pretty cool for the Nun. There isn't too much to say about it. It looks pretty close to the Nun from the movie. There's not too much to say about the Nun. Next up is Annabelle from Annabelle, and basically what she does is she looks her head side to side. Not too much movement on her, but yeah, she looks like Annabelle as a doll. Her size appears to be a doll too. Next up, we have Chucky. So Chucky was originally linked with stuff from Morris Costumes, but I'm pretty sure it somehow made its way into Halloween Costumes. So Chucky looks okay. I will say the Home Depot one was definitely way better than this, being that it had servos and the overall look. Now, I don't think this Chucky does look bad. It's just its face has some, not even deformities, it just doesn't look super alike the actual Chucky from the movie. But I do like that he has some arm movement. But yeah, there's not too much to say about any of these licensed props. Next up is Ripsaw, and there's a lot to say about this guy. Ripsaw is basically a type of chainsaw guy, kind of giving off a Leatherface type vibe. Now, he's holding a chainsaw, obviously, as it's in the name, pretty much. And his chainsaw actually spins, which I think is very unique. And the thing that I don't really understand is that he is wearing a gas mask, but I do think it adds to his character. But so far, I do really like the concept of this guy, as we don't get many props with chainsaws now. But I think it's really cool that Halloween Costumes did Ripsaw, and I think he turned out really good. Next up is Marry the Unhappily Ever After. Now, this lady kind of reminds me of Evelyn Leach from Spirit Halloween. She kind of has that, like, cloth over her face and stuff. But this time, she kind of gives off a haunted mansion. I forget the name, but the haunted mansion, like, lady. So basically what she does is, I don't know if she actually lunges, but it kind of looks like it. She moves her hands down from her face and it reveals a UV light that projects onto her, giving that type of purplish look, and it reflects on her for a pretty cool jump scare. But that's about it for Marry the Unhappily Ever After. Lastly, for the new props from Halloween Costumes, is going to be the 33-foot and the 50-foot Stay Puft inflatable. So, there's two different sizes for this guy. You can either get the 33-foot or the 50-foot. And I really like how this looks, and he's given a more Stay Puft size vibe with this, because Stay Puft, I'm pretty sure, is like 100-something feet tall. So that 50 feet is half of it, but it's still given a pretty cool effect, because most people can't really tell if it's 100 or 50. I mean, you can, it's definitely a big difference, but it still gives that greater size than the 10-foot one. And this thing does actually look a lot like Stay Puft, which I think is really cool for Ghostbusters fans and just people that want to have a ginormous inflatable on their lawn. Lastly, for Halloween Costumes lineup is going to be the returns, which are all from Big Lots. So I'm kind of thinking that they're trying to save Big Lots or something from going out of business, but I don't think that will work. These are going to be the Lumbering Zombie, the Raven Scarecrow, and the Howlin' Werewolf. So like I just said, these we have seen before from Big Lots in the past, so I'm not really going to talk about them at all. But that's about it for Halloween Costumes Wave 1 reveal of their animatronics so far, and I think they're looking pretty solid this year compared to other companies. But let me know what you think down in the comments below, because I would like to hear your opinions if you think they're good or not. But anyway, make sure you remember that I'm the Spirit Keeper, and I give you a reason for every season. Bye.